Okay, it's recording.
Okay.
All right, welcome back, students. Last time we were together, we made a suspect data chart where you showed the 4 main suspects that you believe stole the Vermeer painting or is keeping the Vermeer painting. So today, what we're going to do is we're going to make that character, because now you've chosen a main suspect. Zoe, who do you want as your main suspect?
I want my main suspect to be Mrs. Sharpay.
Mrs.
You
Sharpay?
take everything. Why? You take everything.
Alana, do you want the same main suspect?
Yes.
You think it's Mrs. Sharpay too?
Mhm.
Okay, well you both can choose Mrs. Sharpay, that's okay, but I do like that I see Petra's dad is also listed, the man in the armchair is also listed, Mr. Watch is also a good one. And so as long as you have really thought it through and you have it narrowed down to your main suspect, that's okay if you guys chose the same one, because Mrs. Sharpay is very suspicious. You don't have to give her an evil eye. Alright, so we're going to make our characters multi-dimensional, and what I mean by that is when we do our most wanted posters, I want you to do more than just Mrs. Sharpay is rich because it says that she has a lot of money, or that she's old, that she seems to be in her 70s, she's retired, she has green eyes. I want you to do more than just that. I also want you to be able to add why you think she's suspicious, the behavior she's done that are suspicious. I want you to be able to add a quote that maybe she said something that makes her the top of your suspect list.
Yeah.
So I also would like for you to add a quote on your character cube. And by making these cubes, when you do your wanted poster, it'll be easier because then you can flip it around and be able to add more details. Because I want your poster to be really detailed in clues and facts from your novel. So first, we're going to go over our vocabulary this week. Our vocabulary this week is suspicious, hypothesis, suspect, character traits, and motive. And what I've done today so that we can get up and moving and get our brains flowing is I have scattered the definitions around the room. So you have to find the definition and read it to me.
Oh, they're so tiny.
I know, I should have made them bigger. They are kind of tiny. Note to self for next time, I should have made them bigger. Okay, ready? Go. Find your definition.
Yay.
Find the definition for your vocabulary word.
So whoever gets the first 2 wins?
You just get to read them to the class.
Shoot.
We're all winners here.
I lost it.
You dropped it? Okay, here's another one. I'll take it.
One fell out of my
That's okay.
hand.
That's okay. Here's another one.
I hope it's not at the bottom.
Found it?
At the bottom.
All right, read it. Oh, you found one? Read it out loud.
It's suspect and it says a who may have committed a crime.
That's right. A suspect is a person who may have committed a crime, and we are coming up with suspects right now.
It's like that thing where you have to be like arms everywhere. Woo.
Twister?
Yeah. Found one.
All right, read it out loud. What's your word and your definition?
Found it.
Zoe first.
It's a word that describes a person. A physical trait describes a person's physical features and physical abilities. But a character trait focuses on a character's personality or demeanor.
Nice job. Demeanor. Demeanor is that word.
I found my second one.
All right, Alana, read it out
The
loud.
belief or impression that someone is involved in an illegal or dishonest activity. Characters, actions, or traits that may make your belief that they may be guilty.
It's suspicious.
Suspicious,
I
yes.
like
What?
that
Can you give me an example of a suspicious behavior?
one. When you're acting all nervous all the time and you
I know.
don't really pay attention to stuff.
That's what in our last chapter, I think chapter 15 or 14, Miss Hussey, the teacher, while she was talking about the missing painting, she was twirling her ponytail over and over again. Sometimes when people twirl their hair or bite their nails, that can be considered suspicious behavior too. Like you said, just acting all nervous. All right, Zoe, what'd you find?
One of these two. Can't make a choice.
Oh, wait, what's your word? What's your word? And we'll have one.
Hypothesis.
Hypothesis. Do you think it is limited evidence as a starting point for further investigation?
Dang it, I knew it was that one.
Okay, I was going to say, do you think it's this one? Last one, eternal purpose or reason for making a choice or completing an action. We talked about that yesterday when we made our data chart. What would that be considered? Starts with an M. If you don't know, look at your chart. If you don't know, find the answer. We have a possible motive, right? That's the reason why. That's the motive for any criminal to commit a crime. All right, go back to your seat. I have a quick write for you. Before we read our chapters today, I want you guys to answer a question. Let me pull it up on the board to get your
What
minds
chapter
right
are we
and thinking about what we're doing.
What chapter are we reading today?
It's
16. We're going to read 16 through possibly 19. I'm thinking 16 through 18 though. I know, because I thought 4 chapters might be a lot. So I might have you guys read 19 on your own.
Hey, I burned 8 chapters in one morning.
Okay. All right. So this is what I want you to be looking at. You guys have a piece of paper and a pencil in front of you. The quote is, "Your conscience is the measure of the honesty of your selfishness."
what?
Okay. Listen to it carefully. Do you know what your conscience is?
Yeah, I do.
What's your conscience?
It's like the person inside of you that's
You're-
like you're telling
It's
you
the
to do the right
person in
thing.
your head
and the
on conducting
Yeah.
what is right and wrong.
In cartoons, you have 2 constant shapes.
You're both
It's
telling me
just
the
like
same thing at the same time.
It's Jiminy Cricket.
You're both right. It's Jiminy Cricket. That's exactly right. Perfect definition.
Thank you.
Your conscience. What does the song like? Let your conscience
and
be
always
right.
on your conscience.
Yeah.
And
So
in cartoons,
it's that.
they have 2
A lot of people call it. Hang on. A lot of people call it that inner voice. So it's your inner voice that's telling you that this is wrong, or this is illegal, or you shouldn't be doing this.
Or maybe
My mom has 2.
Puppets don't have a conscience, so that's why we had Jiminy Cricket. So the quote is, your conscience, so it's that your inner voice, is the measure of the honesty of your selfishness. Listen to it carefully. So, what do you think that means?
when you're doing something wrong, you know it's right, but you just want to do it for some reason.
And that might be your motive. That maybe you want to do something, let's say, like my 6-year-old was sneaking candy. She really, really likes candy. So she knows that she should ask permission. So her conscience was telling her that this is wrong. She knew it was wrong, but she did it anyways. Because I don't know if it's correct to call her selfish, but because it was self-motivated. Because she wanted that.
I guess in a way you could be selfish is hogging all. If there was like a huge pile of ice cream, just hogging all of it and eating it.
And that's a motive
and
of
not weeding anybody.
And that's a motive of selfishness, yeah. And so what I want you to do, so in the coming chapters, so we're about to read 16 through 18. I'll read chapter 16. I know, Alana, you forgot your book today. You left your book at school, is that right? So you forgot your book today. So we're gonna have to make do with 2 copies, but I'm gonna read chapter 16 and then we'll read we'll read chapter 17 and 18 together. But in the coming chapters, Calder and Petra are faced with a serious dilemma. Whether they should follow their conscience or do something which they may live to regret. Look at the quote. So you're going to look at this quote again. You're either going to defend it and say, yes, this is correct and this is why, or you're going to refute it, which means this is not correct and this is why.
Grapefruit.
Yes.
Oh, it sounds like fruit.
It does sound like fruit at the end, kind of refute it. So you're going to say, defend it, yes, this is correct. You're going to say, no, this isn't correct. And I want you to support your answer with specific details from either your book or personal experiences. Yes, Zoe.
I was thinking that like the people, just in a question.
Okay.
Like a statement, like my opinion. I feel like the people that are like.
You don't have to tell me right now, write it. Write what you feel. You're writing what you feel, and then you can tell me, okay?
I don't want to write this idea down.
Okay, write it as best you can. Okay, you guys have, I'm going to set a timer. You guys have, we'll give you 2 minutes to write your idea. So, your conscience is a measure of honesty of your selfishness. Listen to it carefully.
So I have to write this thing down. The quote.
No, you don't have to write the quote down. You don't, you're just deciding to defend it or refute it. And your answer can be specific details from the text. So how the person that stole the painting of Vermeer is saying that he did it to protect Vermeer's legacy, basically, or you can do personal experiences. Like I gave the candy example.
What if we're kind of in between?
Well, tell me why you're in between. Who wants to share what they wrote first? Or finish the sentence that you're on? This is what I should say. Okay, do you guys both have a lot more to share?
I don't. I'll tell you now.
Oh, okay.
Yes and no. And no. It is there. It is true. It is true because you need to trust yourself. When you don't, it's like you don't trust yourself. It is false because you need to do things for yourself. And sometimes it is telling you to do the wrong thing.
Okay, so you're saying that there are some instances where it's good to be selfish and that you need to take care of yourself. I like it. I like it. Alana, what do you say? Do you have a lot more that you're writing? Because I can start reading chapter 16 while you write if you want to do that.
No,
No? You're ready?
I think it's kind of right and wrong.
Okay.
I think it's right and wrong because your conscience does not only measure your selfishness, but what you do because for a reason you want to do this job. You have like a reason to do it, and it's not all just because you're selfish for it.
Okay. Okay, so you have, so as long as you have a good reason for doing something, then you can ignore your conscience? Is that what you're saying?
No,
No, never ignore your conscience?
not really, kind of. If it's like a really bad thing to do, you shouldn't really do it. But I guess if it hurts someone that you care about, then you shouldn't really do it. Unless it's completely something really bad, then you have to do it. Like
So-
if someone stole something.
So you're saying it just depends on the situation? All right, I think I agree with both of you that it depends on the situation and it could be good if you're protecting yourself and if it's really bad then it should never happen. Okay, let me, okay, let me start reading chapter 16. And I'm trying to think, can you guys sit close to each other and share a book, or can I sit close to you and share a book? I'm not sure how to switch this to the document camera, so we'll just share. Okay. Chapter 16.
That's so close.
The university school was built around a central courtyard, Gracie Hall. Now the lower school had been built in 1903 as home for John Dewey's radical new school. Forming the west side of the quadrille, King Hall had been built almost 30 years later for the University of Chicago's education department. The idea was to be able to observe what was going on in Dewey's now famous laboratory. A new middle school building built in 1990 was on the east side of the high school built in 1960. On the north, Poppyfield Hall tucked behind a high school dated back to 1904 and had music and art rooms. The following morning, Calder and Petra sat down on a bench in the Gracie Hall lobby. They were facing a stone fireplace that had, excuse me, a bust of Francis Parker on the mantel. Parker, a colleague of John Dewey's, had a university high school baseball cap and a red scarf around his neck. The painting is small, remember? The canvas is only about 1 foot by 1.5 feet. Calder was fiddling with his pentominoes. Think, hundreds of kids and grown-ups go in and out of the building all day. There are cleaning people here at night. What's a place that no one would disturb? Calder pulled a pentomino out of his pocket and looked at it. They both stared at the T in Calder's palm. T for 12. There aren't 12 floors. I don't get it. Calder shrugged. Petra sat up straight, her knees cupped in her hands. Let's try to think like Miss Hussey. She'd find a place with no leaks or mice or anything. Calder was scraping the T back and forth on the wooden bench. 12. Does Miss Hussey have 12 of anything? She wears all those earrings. There's a key, a pearl, a high-heeled shoe. Calder was muttering now. Key, pearl, shoe, pearl, key, pearl, shoe, key, heel, key, pearl, heel. Hey, that sounds like keep her here, doesn't it? Petra laughed. Now you've got to be thinking like a pentomino. Maybe this means she's in Gracie Hall. Calder, in his excitement, gave Petra a quick bear hug. Good thinking, he said. Straightening her glasses, she tried not to look too pleased. He and Petra agreed that they should pretend to make a master map of the school. This would give them an excuse to poke around during lunch. None of the classes, aside from their own, would know that it wasn't an assignment. At lunchtime, armed with measuring tapes, clipboards, and pencils, they'd covered the first floor, checking even unlikely places. They looked in storage closets, behind the file cabinets, under the beds, and in the nurse's office. Inside old paper towel dispensers in the bathroom, around the coat rack, and in the director's boardroom, and beneath hats and mittens and lost and found. On day 2, they covered the second floor. Although it was hard to be thorough, most of the classrooms had 100-year-old built-in cupboards. The drawers in the bookshelves, it was awkward explaining why they had to look into those to measure the room. Petra got bitten by a hamster, and in the science room, Calder accidentally allowed a box of hissing cockroaches to escape down the heat grate. Gross. Petra dropped a hunk of limestone being examined by 4th grade geologists on her toe, and Calder got a 3rd grade teacher angry by trying to look behind her bulletin board and knocking it off some drawers of the Great Chicago Fire. They had worked their way through Gracie Hall except for the basement, which was locked. They decided to talk to Mrs. Treck, the lower school principal, about letting them in. Always enthusiastic about kids' projects, she could be counted on to help. They explained about the map, and she agreed to take them down there the next day. That defeats the whole purpose. Calder was digging in his locker for his math book. He didn't realize that Petra had walked ahead. A voice behind him said, "Talking to yourself? Where's your girlfriend?" It was Denise. Calder felt his face get hot and slammed his locker door. Someone ought to hide her somewhere, permanently. On Monday morning, they met up with Mrs. Treck as planned, reminiscing about the kindergarten field trip to the basement, a tradition in lower school. Calder and Petra watched as the principal struggled with the bolt. They had forgotten how weird the place was. The walls were field stone and the floor went uphill and down. Right angles had clearly been abandoned below ground level. They saw piles of rolled rugs, broken benches, a tangle of plumbing pipes, even a clawfoot bathtub. There were spidery shapes made out of old desks stacked top to top. Mrs. Treck had just unlocked the supply room when her cell phone began to ring. A parent needed to speak with her in the office. "Oh dear. Will you be okay down here for just a minute? I'll be right back." As soon as she left, Calder and Petra opened the supply room door, reaching bravely into the blackness. Calder groped around for the light. It wasn't on the wall by the door. He took a couple of steps into the room, ran into a string hanging from the ceiling and pulled it. Shelves of construction paper and boxes of pencils and rulers jumped into focus. Teachers were allowed down here for supplies. Both kids could imagine Miss Hussey using it as a hiding place. There was no time for talking. Quickly, they ran their hands along the shelves, looked behind curtains, tried to lift crates. On one side of the room were several old picture frames. Behind them, leaning against the wall, was a small package wrapped neatly in brown paper. It wasn't as dusty as the others, and it was the right size, no doubt about it. They heard steps coming down the stairs, and Mrs. Trek called their names. By the time the principal reached the supply room, Petra was alone. Petra told Mrs. Streck that Calder had needed the bathroom and had gone back up. As they walked towards the stairs, Petra asked if they could return in the middle of the morning. I'm afraid I won't be free again until tomorrow. The principal smiled kindly as she locked the heavy metal door. Think you can wait? Sure, Petra said, her mind racing. No problem. As soon as she got to the classroom, Petra told Miss Hussey that Calder had a morning dentist appointment and slipped into her seat. She tried, but it was just about impossible to pay attention in class. She excused herself to go to the bathroom. More than once, tore down to the basement door each time and knocked softly. There was no sound from inside. Calder stayed crouched for what felt like hours. This was the darkest dark he had ever been in. The basement didn't seem to have any windows. At one point, he heard a scurrying around. He knew that Gracie Hall most likely, like most old buildings in Hyde Park, had mice. And there were also those hissing cockroaches that had disappeared down the vent. He stood up. Holding the painting carefully, he took 2 steps, then 2 more. What if there was some monster living in this basement? Someone who had snuck in when the janitor wasn't looking. Humming tunelessly, he felt his way up the stairs. When he got to the landing, he tried the door to the first floor. The handle turned, but the door was bolted. He crept back down, trying not to touch the walls. Better to stay out of sight. Maybe if he was lucky, someone would come down to get pencils and leave the door open long enough for him to slip out. He reminded himself that he was probably holding one of the greatest treasures of the art world. What were a few hours of his life next to the adventures of the lady must have been through in her 300-some years. Besides, now he and Petra would be famous. They'd be interviewed on TV. They'd be in the Chicago Tribune. Groping his way along, he found a chair and sat down slowly. He better stop daydreaming. A number of things had to happen before the painting was safe. If it was the painting to occupy himself, he worked on some puzzles in his head. First, he made 3 different 12-piecers. Then he tried writing to Tommy, but without the code, it was tough. So soon Calder felt himself wanting to doze. It was so quiet and so dark. So we talked about it. What are they doing that would probably, your conscience would probably tell you not to do? What did Petra do?
Well, Petra tried to say later that morning if they could get it out, but she said we won't have time until tomorrow.
Right, and so Petra said, no problem, and she lied, right? She lied several times. She lied and said that Calder had already left the basement. Then she lied to the teacher and said that Calder had a dentist appointment. What is Calder looking for? The painting. Make a prediction. Do you think that this is a lady writing?
I think it is.
You think it's the missing Vermeer
Just kidding.
painting, a lady writing?
I don't think so. I mean, it looks like there's a few more chapters to be in this book, so I don't think it would be over that soon.
Okay, so you don't think it'll be over that soon? All right. Where shall
picture, but there's a chase.
But there's a chase. Oh, that's a good thought too. Petra hurried down the lower school office at lunchtime. Mrs. Trek isn't here, dear. She's gone for the rest of the day. The secretary looked irritated. Petra felt a rush of determination. The basement, my friend Calder and I need to finish an assignment by today. Is there someone who could let me in? We don't allow kids down there alone. You know that. Mrs. Trek said it was fine for us to finish our research, though. Petra lied. She said she'd make an exception, so this is the third lie she's telling. Please, plus we're sixth graders. The secretary looked at Petra and sighed. All right, just let me get my lunch. While the secretary was gone, Petra looked carefully at the top of her desk. Maybe the keys were inside the drawer. If she found them, should she race down and let Calder out? If the secretary came with her, she'd discover Calder had been there all morning. It'd be better to get blamed for taking the keys. She stepped quickly over to the desk, jerked open the drawer, and found, sure enough, the fat ring of master keys. Stuffing them in her pants pocket, she headed towards the basement entrance as fast as she could go without looking conspicuous. She waited outside the basement door, pretending to use the payphone until there was no one in either direction. Her hands were fumbly and damp. First one key, no. Then another, no. Someone was coming. Petra picked up the phone again, her heart pounding wildly. She felt sure the person walking by would hear it, but they didn't stop. The third key turned easily, pulled open the basement door. She clicked on the switch and slipped inside. Calder! Calder! She whispered at the foot of the stairs. There was no one. It was too quiet. Couldn't he hear her? As her eyes adjusted in the dark, she made out a small figure slumped in a chair. The package was still held tightly in his arms. Her first thought was he died of fright. She hurried over and gave him a prod. He popped upright. Geesh, Petra, I ought to get 10 pounds of blue ones for being down here all this time. I'm glad you're all right, but hurry up, Calder. I had to steal the keys. Hurry! They were upstairs, peeking out the door, and in front hall in seconds. They clicked the basement door shut behind them. Petra grabbed a jacket from Lost and Found box in the lobby and covered the package with it just as the secretary came around the corner carrying her lunch. Well, hello, you two. I'll be right back to let you in. And it won't take long, will it? Silent, both shook their heads as soon as she headed off towards the office. Petra looked at Calder in a panic. Now what? What we do about her keys? Leave them in the door to the basement? She'll think Mrs. Trek left them there. Petra and Calder were too nervous to talk on the walk home from school. They raced up Calder's front steps and straight to his room. Both struggled with the zipper on Calder's backpack. In the rush at school, he had pulled it closed on the fabric. Stupid thing. Calder grabbed scissors from his desk and cut open the backpack. They pulled off the tape, wrapped around the brown paper. The edges of the dark wooden frame emerged, and then an old backing. They turned it over. Someone with an eager pear-shaped head and a green bun sat writing at a table. Her one visible ear was graced with what looked like a dangling ping-pong ball. There was an orange moon behind her and a melting castle. The painting might have been done by a second grader. A second grader who is now a grandparent. It was not the lady they'd been looking for.
I knew it.
Okay, just because of time, I'm going to show you how to make the cube really quick. And we only have one computer. I was hoping that we could do this on iPads, but we only have one computer. So one of you will work, and I'll read chapter 17 with the other one, just to save time, okay? All right, so I already have this up for you. What you're going to do is you're going to come on to Read, Write, Think, and then you're going to click Get Started. What are you going to do?
Get started.
That's right, you're going to click Get Started. So once you get started, you are on Cube Creator. You are going to make a bio cube.
Ooh, a mystery.
Enter your name. I can show you like the mystery cube and story cubes. Those are for like if you're gonna write your own story, which are kind of neat too. So we can play with those later. Let me grab I forgot to bring my data chart over. I had done Miss Hussey for you yesterday. So who am I writing about? So my person is Miss Hussey. I think it's her. When did this person live? We'll leave that blank. You don't have to do when this person lived. Where did this person live? Where are they?
New York.
No?
Chicago.
Chicago. They're in Chicago.
And
They do talk about New York a lot. Remember his friend Tommy moved to New York, and that's where the friend Frog went missing.
See, I wasn't totally, completely wrong.
So, what were the major events in Miss Hussey's life? So, major events that happened. What?
the police thing.
And her getting a letter.
So she was arrested. Okay. She got a letter from the thief. I'm gonna say from the thief because that's who it is.
She got a phone call, a mysterious phone call.
She got a mysterious phone call. Okay. Mysterious phone call.
Mysterious phone call. Wait, I thought it was...
She was found, or she was seen carrying a thick package that could have been the painting. Okay, so you guys get the idea? Okay, so these are events. Next, personality traits. So, what do we know about Miss Hussey? She is Calder and Petra's teacher. What else do we know about her?
she... Two frogs. She cares about her students and she's really fun.
Okay, so she cares about learning. I would say she cares about learning because she's always trying to get students to be experimental in their education and doing stuff. So she cares about learning and wants to make it fun.
Scared of whoever sent that letter.
Okay. We'll get to that. We'll do that later. So another thing that she does, a personality trait. We know that she twirls her ponytail when she gets nervous.
What does she
Okay. Excuse me. Okay. Significance. And for significance, I want you to write. This is when I want you to put your suspicions. So remember that yesterday we talked about suspicious thoughts and actions, and you wrote about your character's suspicions. So under significance, I want this to be significant suspicions. And so I'm going to write that she what's suspicious is she reads
Murder book.
murder novels.
Why is it so suspicious again? Because she reads murder novels in general.
Because she reads mysteries in general, so she likes a good mystery. So since she got a letter, she would be more likely to say yes and to help the person because she likes mysteries so much. She is seen, I'm gonna say she's even seen snooping around with Mr. Watch a lot. And we don't really know who Mr. Watch is.
Maybe Mr. Watch is the guy.
Maybe he's the guy. We don't really know how she knows Mr. Watch, but she's with him a lot, dropping off books. They dropped off those art books. They were seen with the package together. So just a lot with Mr. Watch.
Which had the painting in it.
Which had the painting in it.
Gosh,
So we don't know how she knows him, so that's pretty suspicious. And since the painting went missing, she's acting really nervous.
She's really pretty.
All right. What challenges did Miss Hussey overcome? Okay, instead of this one, it says, what challenges did Miss Hussey overcome? I want you to write her motives. So possible motives were for money, she loves art. What'd you say?
Out of fear.
Out of fear, yeah.
She loves mysteries.
So obstacles are your possible motives. Loves mystery, loves a good mystery.
What's that?
I don't know what that was. That a
It's
yawn?
like, oh.
All right, this is your last side, and it says to add a quote.
I was like,
It says to add a quote from your person. I can help you guys find quotes, but I highlighted some quotes. My quote from Miss Hussey that why I think she is the culprit is because okay, she said, okay, she is quoted as saying, Picasso said that, all right, girls, refocus, that art is a lie
it is.
that tells the truth. So that's why I think that she did it, and that's the quote they found. And I can help you guys find quotes for your character. Okay, so do you understand how you're going to do this?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to leave a sheet on here so that you know, you can put your name in here. And then I'm going to email it to myself and I'll print it out for you for next time. But this is, I'll leave this sheet up here that says how you're going to change some of them to suspicions and possible motive. All right.
I'll go first.
All right, you go first.
Hey, while you're doing that, you can explore the room.
Oh no, we're gonna read. We'll read chapter 7.
Oh, you're gonna read chapter 7. That's even better.
Hey, Zoe, you need your data sheet for this.
Yeah,
About-
but what is she?
I mean chapter.
I have a feeling that I'm going way too ahead.
Here's this, and here's also.
Oh, sounds.
Yeah. Okay. All right. It's recording again.
Oh.
I think my iPad is out of memory, so we had to switch to the iPhone. But right, chapter 17. We just read the first part of chapter 17. I won't make you read it again, okay? Hold on, let me. All right, and we just talked about caviar word and peanut butter and jelly words. Can you name another caviar word? What's one word that when you say it that you just really like the way that it sounds?
Zoe.
Your own name?
Yeah.
I like the word like elegant.
Oh yeah, that does feel good in your mouth.
Elegant sounds good when you say it.
Oops.
I'm trying to think of one.
Can you think of a peanut?
Frosty.
Frosty?
Zebra.
Frosty. So frosty is a caviar word. These are really good descriptive words too. It's something to think about when you're doing your wanted poster. What's like a peanut butter and jelly word? What's a word that you hear all the time?
Chocolate.
Okay.
Zoe.
Coffee.
You can put Zoe and Bo. And it doesn't have to be a grocery list. I know Petra's is a grocery
Math.
list. But math?
I hear math all the time.
Reading.
Okay, okay. Now
Do
you
your homework.
Now
Stop
you guys.
messing with your tablet.
Now you guys are just being silly. All right, so those are caviar words. At the triple X's, will you please start reading?
Okay.
Alana.
Petra ran straight over to Calder's house. Did anyone see you pick it up? I looked around. Only one person crossing the street. Calder blew his nose vigorously. Do you think it's the same letter you started to read, the one that blew away? How could it be? Maybe there's a fourth letter, Petra groaned. Calder reached for his pentominoes. It's creepy to think someone sticking that letter carefully in Miss Sharpay's bushes. Do we tell the police? It'll make it harder for us to keep looking. Good thinking, but either one of us should walk around here.
You're right. But neither of us should walk around here.
Walk around here on our own. We could end up like that frog kid. They refolded the letter and placed it neatly inside a sandwich bag and tucked it into the geographer's box. They each ate a blue one, then they each ate 2 more. Calder was holding the P pentomino. P is for pray, he said, trying to grin. Petra looked horrified. Pray, she said. Us? You mean we're being hunted? No, I meant pray, as in hoping to stay safe. Calder said, maybe it's pray we're not prey. Petra added, scaring them both.
Yeah, and then remember we talked about, we played that homophone game? So do you understand the pray, we're not prey? So you're like saying a prayer that you're not being hunted. The next day, so those will always pop up, so you always think about that homophone game. The next day, more news broke. A book appeared in the stores that morning called The Vermeer Dilemma. What happens now? Easily a $50 art book. It was being sold for an unusually affordable $1.50. This was less than the price of a Big Mac. An anonymous gift had made it possible for everyone with an interest in Vermeer and in this painful situation to buy the book. Written by a respected art historian, it included an excellent color plate of every painting attributed to Vermeer. Are you done?
Yep.
Looks like it. Okay. Thousands of copies changed hands across the United States on the first day, and countries around the world reported similar sales. We're on page 171.
So who are you doing, Alana?
You're going to need your data sheet. Do you have that?
Alana, who are you doing? You're not going to tell me.
Okay. Zoe.
My data sheet.
What do you need? Oh, your data sheet? Okay. Thousands of copies changed hands across the United States on the day, and countries around the world reported similar sales. Have you been listening? So you know that a $50 art book is now being sold for $1.50? What would be the purpose of that? Why would that help the thief?
So people could learn more about the art.
Okay, so people can learn more about the art. And if they learn more about the art, what do you think will happen?
If they learn more about the art, then they'll start respecting the art and like wondering about it more. Like, who was this person that did this art?
Okay. And I know, Alana, that you work better with music. Do you want headphones while you work on this?
Yeah.
You do? Okay. And so that the more people that talk about it, the more that interest is going to be generated, and the more likely that people are to.
Sorry.
That's okay.
She's giving me a dirty look. Like,
Okay. That more likely people are going to start the conversation of Vermeer, and that the lies will be unveiled. All right, start reading, Zoe.
Okay, so this was less than the price of a Big Mac. Are we there?
Yeah, that's fine.
This was less than the price of a Big Mac. An anonymous gift has made it possible for everyone with an interest in Vermeer and in this painful situation to buy a book written by a respected art historian. It included an excellent color plate of every painting attributed to Vermeer. Thousands of copies changed hands across the United States. On the first day, and countries around the world. On the first day, and countries around the world reported similar sales. The book was about all the positive things that had come out of this terrible crime. People were looking at and talking about paintings as they never had before. They were comparing future tile work and the structure of leaded glass window, the follows and stained skirt. They were comparing details like the way light struck a fingernail or a wrist bone, the look of a woven basket handle or a curl of hair. They examining works of art with toughness and instility. Instility? That's something that's I don't know if that says it. Intensity.
Intensity? Do you want to add that to our words?
Yeah.
Okay.
To caviar words.
Our caviar words, okay. Okay.
Usually seen only in buyers of new cars or
Could you have the
electronics.
same like suspect for people?
No.
Yeah, you and Zoe can have the same suspect. That's okay.
Okay.
Okay, you can keep reading, Zoe.
Would usually seen only in buyers of new cars or electronics. Groups of people pointing and arguing energetically in front of a mirror It had become a common sight. Museums were busier and livelier places. It was the first time that many trained people had felt that they could say something of value about a work of art, something that might make a difference. It was the first time that many people had realized how murky and changeable the waters of history can be. When an artist leaves behind no proposal papers, when hundreds of years ago, by who is to say that followers or forgers didn't use his or her name to make some money. And of course the idea of correcting a centuries-old mistake, of pointing out the pointing out the experts in the museums and universities weren't really expert as they thought. They were as irresistible as children were thinking about Vermeer too. They were comparing writing and visiting museums with friends. Many said that they hadn't realized how cool old pictures could be. They also hadn't realized that the art in the museums can be mysterious, that grown-ups don't always know what it means or where it came from. The author talked about how this uproar was probably also good for art historians and museum curators. It was forcing them to write to questions views that had been accepted for decades. To look carefully at what they had been taught. Was the thief right? Was the public right? Why didn't the so-called early and late Vermeers have that luminous, haunting touch? The book ended by stating firmly what the thief had done to get attention of the art world was wrong. The public's relationship to Vermeer had gotten great fear. Vermeer had two other great masters. Our world,
Other masters had,
How do you
as a result, changed drastically.
Question. How do you spell the word? I can't remember the guy who did the paintings.
Vermeer.
Vermeer. All right, you can keep reading, Zoe.
People around the world had developed a comfort with the great art that they had never had before. The theft was a gift. The last page carried a message to the thief, whether or not museums chose to change the wall labels next to some of the Vermeer paintings. The public had done an amazing job of spotlighting any possible fraud. Everyone was now looking for it. It was only a matter of time, the author suggested, before museums would respond to the public's thinking. In the meantime, a lady in writing should be returned. The thief should consider his mission to have been successful.
Very good. All right, chapter 18. I added a few more caviar words. I added the word, I added the word fraud, because that's a really good word. And then peanut butter jelly words, I added the word great. Because a lot of times people say, that was fun.
Oh,
That was great. That was
good.
cool. That was good. Yeah. But instead of saying great, can we say that was fabulous? That was fantastic.
Ooh, that's a caviar word.
Yeah. So in your writing, I want to see you adding those caviar words. So today we talked about our top suspect. We talked about our conscience and how Petra and Calder are sneaking around the school, telling lies, stealing keys. Never steal your principal's keys, by the way. Stealing keys.
Did you do that?
To try to find the lady in writing. No, I didn't do that. To try to find the lady writing because they think that it's hidden in their school somewhere. So they think they're doing the right thing, but they're not.
They're not.
But they're still trying to find this mystery. I know Alana has a little bit more to do on her cube. She will be able to finish that when we get started next time.
Ooh.
And also next time we are going to make a wanted poster.
Yay!
So we'll make a most wanted poster during our next visit for, it looks like you both are doing Mrs. Sharpay. And we'll continue reading chapters 18 and 19.
Can I listen?
Hey, I have the same headphones.
Oh, are you guys listening? And we'll continue reading chapters 18 and 19 and see if we can add more details and information. Between now and then, I want you to find a quote for Mrs. Sharpay.
I'll have to look that up.
Yes, you're going to have to look through your book and find a quote from her that makes her either guilty or it gives an added detail as to why you think she's guilty.
Can I listen to a little?
So, any other questions for me? Girls, any other questions for me?
No.
Okay.